Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Var Akobian, and today's lecture is the Grandmaster's Choice Tuesday evening lecture, and I prepared a game to show you from the candidates tournaments. We continue diving deep into the candidates, and here is the game between Hikaru Nakamura against Alireza Firouzja from round number 12. This is an important game because this game gave Hikaru some serious chances to win the candidate tournament finally. He put himself in a good position here. Firouzja was having a up and down tournament, but for Hikaru this was a must-win game, and he delivered, guys. He started off with e4, e6, French defense. Not often you see the French defense played in the candidate tournament, but Firouzja plays it, and Hikaru chooses the exchange variation. Who would think, yeah? For many, knight c3 is considered the key move in this position. e5 is another attempt that you see more often here, but e takes d5 is a rare guest when you see two super grandmasters play. So ed, knight f3, bishop d6. I play the same position. I usually play the move knight f6. That's just my choice here. I think knight f6 is a very decent move, allowing to just then play the move bishop d6. I want to welcome everybody at the chat. We have a lot of familiar faces in the chat here. Welcome everybody. Of course, the casual player from long time ago. The casual is there, and you were there earlier as well when we had some games today. So hope you enjoyed the stream where I played a lot of the chess club followers. So bishop d6, somewhat a move that encourages the move c4. That's the reason I don't play the bishop d6, because some of these positions after c4 are not so clear. So c4 is played by Hikaru. Knight f6, and now c5. c4, c5. I mean, normally this is not gonna give anything to white, but Hikaru is playing something very specifically prepared by his team. He's not just showing up to the game and then deciding to play the exchange variation of the French on the board. No, he's got some ideas. He probably saw that Alireza plays like this, and he had some ideas. And now he plays a very interesting move, queen a4. Again, this move is against all the principles, developing the queen too early, while the other pieces are not developed. But it's really some specifics here. It's hard to tell right now because he probably has a really big file on this, and he justifies this move. But what I think I can tell you that he probably wants to meet like this move with a move like knight e5 and put pressure. Okay. So queen a4 check. He goes bishop d7, queen c2, castles, bishop e3, developing. Knight c6 is played, activating the knight. I mean, really, in this position, you don't have so many different plans here. I mean, the plan with c6, I think, is just going to be too slow. C6, knight c3, bishop g4, c6. Let's say knight c3, bishop g4, knight e5. This is just going to be a little bit too slow. I think white is going to be a little bit better here. So he's trying to play more confidently with knight c6, knight c3, and now b6. Bishop e2. Hikaru is just developing, and now we see the point of the move bishop queen a4 check, because if the bishop was on c8, he could actually maybe take bc, bc, and then you have to start worrying about the move like d4 here. Now knight goes on b4, aggressive move attacking the queen. Queen d2, bishop f5, activating the bishop, now threatening knight c2. I like how Alireza is playing actively. Hello once again to everybody. Welcome to our stream, and this is the game from the candidates tournament, round number 12. Okay, crucial round where Hikaru needed to win, and you probably know the result. He managed to deliver, putting himself in a good position to fight for the first place in the candidates. So rook c1 is played, and now a3 b4 is coming. So you have to do something, and here Knight g4 is played by Alireza. I mean, he's definitely not shy here. He's just trying to be as aggressive as possible now, putting pressure on e3 and trying to win the bishop. If you give up your bishop, it's very likely you're not going to have any advantage. So I think it's essential to try to keep the bishop. So he plays the move bishop f4 because of that. Takes. Take bishop c5. And now castle. Now we arrive to a very interesting position here. Very, very interesting, because white is just clearly down a pawn. But black has this knight on b4, this knight on g4, and they're about to get kicked, you know, by h3 or a3. There's a little vulnerability on d5, and if you let it run the engine here, don't wait for the immediate evaluation, let it run a little bit, it is showing here that white has the advantage, because it's very hard to coordinate the position. Okay, so that's the idea. It's very hard to coordinate this position. He played rook e8, which is one of the top moves. Now a3 comes in, questioning the knight. And now if you move the knight, then you're going to drop the d5 pawn, like knight takes d5 will come into play. So d4 is played. More or less a force sequence here. Knight b5, hitting the bishop on c5, d3, rook takes c5, takes, rook e1. Very complicated position. We see a lot of pieces are hanging here. a3 is hanging now, f5 is hanging, but Alireza calculated it. So takes, knight d3. I think one of the moves here was just a draw here. I think, yeah, this is correct. And now, after here, I want you to find the best move here for white, for black. A very difficult move to find, but with this move, he actually would have been able to equalize the game here. So I want to pause here a little bit and give you guys a chance to find a move that Firouzja played. So it's a very important move here, because it's going to be very important for the later on in the game to play this move. Otherwise, it's just not that much. You know, white is going to be a little bit better here. So what do you think is the correct move here is? It's important move because black is still needs some more development, especially that rook on a8. So it's important to try to get that rook into the game, you know. So let's see here. What did he play here? No, it's not knight to f2. Try to find a good developing move. Okay. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Joaquin, queen d7 is a very important move, attacking the rook and the knight on b5. Okay. And now you got the double attack. Yeah. And this is a very important move actually, because now let's say if you try to preserve the rook, doesn't even rush. And there's no need to rush here. Just consolidate the pieces first, and only then, after you have the complete consolidation, you will take on e1. Okay. So, but instead, you know, queen d7 is again not an easy move to find. He took it immediately. Knight e1. Now bishop d1. Now again, it's a big advantage here. Big advantage in this position for white, but again, a very strong e2 pawn is still remaining. As long as that pawn is still there, it's not going to be easy. Okay. So now he goes rook a d8, attacking the bishop. Bishop c3 has to be played, stable. And now he goes here. Now he goes here, rook to d1, putting pressure on e1. And now, how should white try to continue from here? Okay. Yeah, it's of course, you know, you don't never want to be sitting in this situation where you're constantly pinned, you know, and your knight is just barely holding the position here. This is not a good position to be in. Okay. h3 and then f3 followed by king f2. Well, the thing is, if you play h3, you know, it's all about timing, you know. Timing is very important here. You want to try to get that knight into the game on time, you know. So try to make sure you get the right timing here, okay? So he played yeah, it's very important to try to remove the knight from g4, okay? So f3, correct Fisher random, yes. f3 attacking the knight. Now he has to go knight here, knight e3. I gotta tell you, it was not easy because it's still lots of complications here, you know. Even here, the next move is actually needs to be very precise here, because you know it's always easy to blunder something when there is a pawn like this. Actually, Hikaru makes one mistake here at some point. He played the correct move here. I mean, you can start with the move rook c5, it doesn't make a difference, or you can start out with knight c7, hitting the rook, and then you go here. Now he plays f6. And here, it's technically a winning position. You just have to play it accurately, you know, like you can even just start out with the move h4, and then you want to wait a little bit before you play the move king f2, okay? But unfortunately, he played bishop b4 here. King f7, this is still fine. h4, h5. And now this is a mistake now. This is actually a serious mistake now. And now, after he played king f2, there is a chance here. Black can make a draw here. Please calculate here. This is a serious mistake. This is a serious error. Okay? Why? Let's see if you can find it. Right here, he could just try to get into a position where he'll have excellent drawing chances. Yeah, putting the king on f2 is always, you have this knight d2, knight d1 idea, you know. And now actually there is a pretty much a straightforward shot here that will allow you to hold, and that is rook takes knight, correct. If you take with the king, you're actually going to be in, I mean, I can even play e1, and I can even play knight f4. Black is just doing really well here. So of course he probably looked at this only, but then there's this idea, check. Now takes. And the question is now knight d3 is coming, putting pressure on the bishop. And you'll be like, wait a minute, I have this move, I have rook here, right? But the next thing is we're going to see is he plays this move. Clever. And now he wants to bring the rook to d1 suddenly. And also knight d3 is coming as well, so it's going to be very, very difficult to do anything. So king f2 is actually a blunder. Rook b1 is played. Alireza did not see it. Now he played knight d5 correct check. King g3 is correct. But wait, you're going to see another blunder here coming. Knight d3 is correct. And now the winning move is actually just check, take the pawn on a7, and you're winning. You're doing really, really well here, okay? But inexplicable, you know, Hikaru plays this move, bishop a1, and throws away the entire advantage here, guys. Entire advantage. Knight takes b2 by Alireza, rook b5. I don't know, you probably missed the move rook d1. Take. Now the knight is hanging, and you're dropping the a3 pawn. Rook b7 check. King f8. Yeah, king f8 is a very, very important move. Knight f4. Rook a3. King f2. And now after this move, king f2, I mean, a5, very logical move, pushing the pawn. Rook a7, and the 40th move. The 40th move was a little bit unclear to understand, you know, why he did that. Because when you are in a situation like this, you want to advance your pawns, okay? And this is no different. You can push. He can never take on e2, you have rook a2, and if he gives you check, you simply go here. What happens now, if capture occurs, you promote the pawn into a queen with e1, okay? So, yeah, a4 just would have been a comfortable draw, but okay, I guess he was worried about this move, knight h5. But you have your own counterplay now with this. Check. I know this looks tough, but again, you are ready to promote. You are ready to promote. Check. You defend f6. You don't have to give up this, you know. And now you just chase the bishop all over the board to get a full queen, you know, like this. You just chase it. Now you can actually pin it. So this is going to be really, really uncomfortable now for him. So it's just going to be a draw. Yeah, so instead of doing that, Firouzja makes a huge mistake. I mean, he plays here, g3. And now he plays this g5 move, was just really, really lacking the idea. I really didn't understand. I know he's worried about losing the pawn, but g5 really weakens the position. Okay, so you know, it's also possible maybe he wasn't so sure about if he's going to be able to win the position. Let's say after rook a1, let's say this position. But this is a known position. You go here, cannot take rook e5, so he takes, and this actually is a draw. This position. You just, you know, you know, of course you're going to try to win this. You're going to go around, and it's going to be a lot of moves played. But eventually, you're just not going to be able to win this because there's just not enough pieces left on the board. Okay. If you have two bishops, I think your chances are better. But the bishop and knight is going to be very difficult. There's still probably some chances to win, but I think it's just very, very minimal. Okay. But instead of doing that, instead of just, you know, this was, and the funny thing about this move is it's actually move 41. So he had plenty of time to think here, to figure out what to do here, to play this move rook a1, or even play the move rook a3. The rook a3 is actually very nice because you're threatening to bring this rook on a third rank and start to take some pawns. And once you win the f3 pawn, there'll be more or less pawns on the board, you know. So every time exchanges occur, it actually favors you. But he went here, g5. But this just loses. I'm not sure what he really missed. Now g4, blockading everything, and now he's going to bring the knight to e4. Knight f5. And knight c4. First, he decides to win the a pawn to eliminate any kind of counterplay. And the problem is now this g5 pawn is so weak. Yeah, he resigned actually here because what happens now, you need to make a move, and you don't have any good moves. You know, and again, it's a slightly premature resignation, but the point here, the simple point is he wants to play now bishop d2. So let's say you go here. You go here, he wants to take. And now he wants to bring the knight in. And then he's going to eventually bring the knight here and pick up the pawn. And there is really not much at all you can try to do. Okay? Really not much you can do in this position. So that's the reason after king e3, when I was watching this game live and following it, yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I was a little bit perplexed also. But actually, yeah, he's just losing the pawn. And there's not much really can be done here in this position to generate any kind of counterplay. The knight looks kind of trapped, but it's not trapped. So let's say you sit here. I take. Let's say you go here. I can just play king e3. King d3. Now I can bring the knight to c4. Knight will find its place on c4. If you check on b3, simply bishop will go to the c3 square. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I probably would have played a couple of more moves here, but you know, yeah, it's still, the point is now you are going to be losing your e2 pawn. Yeah, in fact, if this pawn was on g6, it's still going to be a long fight before you can win it. But again, the pawn being on g5, it makes things a lot easier because knight will simply reshuffle now on e4 and then pick up the g5 pawn, and then it will be already two connected passed pawns. So then it will be very difficult actually to do anything. Okay. All right. So yeah, after this move, again, a huge win here. Very complicated game. I think Hikaru played really well. It was great opening preparation. But once again, we see a position where player with the black pieces makes a big commitment. Big pawn commitment, and this is something should show you that you have to take your time. You have to take your time. You want to make sure the timing is right before you make that commitment. Okay. All right, perfect. We have a little bit more time here, guys. I will set up now some examples for you. So make sure, this is the game again. Hikaru Nakamura winning on a round 12 against Alireza Firouzja. Okay. Now I will set up some studies for you. Okay. One of the old studies, some of you might be familiar, some of you might not. So, but this is a really nice study here. White to play and win. Okay. How can white win this position? The problem we have here that we experience, there are two threats. C2 pawn plays C1 check and also taking on D1. Okay. So there are two threats here, and if it was one threat, it would be easier to stop. But two is much harder because you have to watch out for the advance and also the capture that promotes. So now, what's the first move here? Then make sure you don't see the engine. So Nakamura did very good, and he was very close. I just wish in the last round he would get some good winning chances, you know. The opening didn't go very well and it kind of fizzled out. Now, white to play and win. Please type your answers if you know it. How should white try to solve this position? Okay. How should, how to deal with these two threats? Oftentimes, when you don't see anything that you can really do immediately, you want to start out with the check. Okay, that is like oftentimes, when you don't see anything, you start with the check. Okay. Now we start out with the check. That's correct. He's not going to go here. Let's clear up that because you have this, takes, and rook takes. Okay. So he has to go here. Now the both threats are still remaining. Okay. Now what to do? Again, you don't have so many options here because he's threatening to promote and take, so you have to figure out the best move. Yeah. So we do a little check. Now he goes here. Now again, yeah, if we check, yeah, it's just going to be a repetition. But this is where you want to do something brilliant, okay? Rook e2 check doesn't work. Rook e2 check, he goes king d1. And now you actually have to take, otherwise you might even lose now. And that's just going to be a draw. We are trying to win this, okay? If you play king b2, then he can actually even play c1 queen check. So they're definitely going to be close to a draw there, So the correct move here is, no, bishop e2 again doesn't work because he can play c1 queen, okay? Yeah. You cannot allow him to do that right now. You need a special move here. Knight b2? No, knight b2, he goes c1 queen check. Knight b2, he has a c1 check. Knight c3. Now, if he takes, it's easy. Check. King b3, I have bishop d3. If he goes here, I go king b2. So, yeah, sorry, check. He goes here. Knight b1 check. Can't go to d3, can go to the e files, can go to c3. If I go to c2, you have a rook c1 check and pick it up. So it has to go here. very special because there are some tricks here, some very important play here needed. No, bishop e2 check, guys. He will play king e1 and then he will try to escape on the dark squares. So you need to do something to put him into the mating net here. What you will do here to put him into the net here? The king here is actually, oftentimes you'll play queen c5, king c2. So king is actually needs to be moved from here. Okay? Need to do a move to move him from here. We got the check. Bishop d3. Wait, what bishop d3? There is no bishop d3 here. There is bishop 2. Some people say, oh, what about this move? And just try to mate you. And I tell them, how about this? How about that? Sacrificing the queen and then with a stalemate mechanism.
I'm looking at tricks where like the rook goes to e2, blocking the king, but then I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where the queen would go.
Well, you're taking a risk there again. This is the risk.
Yes.
Stalemate again. So you gotta watch out right now. This king is, that's why king needs to be moved from d1. Too many issues there. Okay. Too many issues there, yeah? Now, check. If he goes here, you gotta check. Check and take. Okay? So he has to go here now. Now the king is in a better spot. King is now in a better spot. And how can we try to Yep, rook f8, perfect, perfect, rook f8, and now you're threatening mate, cannot go to e2, cannot go anywhere, so now he is in a mating net. Okay, he's in the net now, and in order to get out of it, he has to sacrifice his queen, you know, like something like this to escape the net, because otherwise if he doesn't have checks, this is the big problem for him. No checks. Check. And here you have a choice. You can play a bishop d3 and win the game on the spot. Or if you want to challenge yourself, you can take here and practice your bishop and knight endgame, you know. Really, if you really want to give yourself a good challenge, you can do that, okay? But I recommend you do it if you know for sure you're going to be able to do it, okay? Don't just experiment with it, okay? Do it if you know for sure you're going to be able to do it, okay? Otherwise, I wouldn't recommend doing it, okay? Yeah. So otherwise just play the move bishop d3 takes, rook takes c1, and you convert this into advantage. Okay. All right. So again, very important idea to know, because when the pawn is on a second rank, it creates a lot of different ideas. Yeah, I do have a lecture on a bishop and knight. So if you research it, it's on the channel. I demonstrate how to checkmate with the bishop and knight. So basically, one of the key ideas is when you drive the king to the corner, to wrong color, it will go to wrong color opposite your bishop. You have to use an idea called W maneuver, okay? That's what you gotta remember. You gotta remember the W maneuver, okay? All right, guys, and the last one, last puzzle for today, okay? To finish up our lecture, so let's start out with this one here. This is a study, and I mean, it just looks like it should be a draw, you know. Position looks kind of equal. I mean, opposite color bishops. I mean, doesn't look like there is a mating net. It just doesn't look like it, you know, that you have anything that you can really do here, okay? But when you see a study, you always have to think about this as something extraordinary may happen, okay? Something extraordinary may happen here. Yeah, we have a big rain here in St. Louis, so just started. So how to progress here, how to make this possible here, guys? Yeah, you need something extraordinary. If you just play like a normal regular move, it's not going to do it for you, okay? So you need something extraordinary. I see some activities in the chat, some correct answer. It cannot be a quiet move, queen c3 sauce, because queen e4 check is coming. So it has to be something with a check. Okay. Check, he goes to g6, so it has to be a check. So now let's say we start with this check. Now you go here. That results into a mate. Okay. So here is a mate, so let's say he goes here. Now we give a check. Check. He's trying to escape, but you're not letting him do that. Check. And a mate. Check, check, and a mate. That's the idea, okay? So check, he has to, let's say, try, this is mate, this mate, let's say he tries this. Check. Can't go here, I have a queen f6 mate. Can't go here, I have a check, check, and a mate. So I have to go bishop f3, check. All the squares are taken. And now, once you reach to this position, what is your mechanism? To push the king to the square that you need it to be on. Okay? Now we're gonna win his queen here. We don't have a way to checkmate here, but we do have a way to win the queen, and that will be check, right? Can go here, has to step out here, and now we have his queen and a king on the same diagonal. Queen d3, and that is the mate. Beautiful. Again, guys, the reason I show you this because I want you to think about extraordinary ideas, okay? When everything ordinary looks like it's going to be a draw, you look for extraordinary ideas, okay? All right, thank you everybody for joining the class this evening, Grandmaster's Choice. Hope you enjoyed the game against Hikaru Nakamura Firouzja. It was a very complicated game, but again, the game was worth so much, you know? It was such a big game for Hikaru and put him in a good position to fight for the championship. Unfortunately, he came a little bit short in that last game. If he had beaten Gukesh, he would have won the tournament, as it turned out. But anyway, it was great efforts by him. Hope you guys enjoy this lecture and the studies. I will see you next week, same time, for the Grandmaster Choice. Have a good evening.